Alrighty, welcome to Jack and the Bean Talk on August 4th, 2020, in a world where sports have returned. And the Denver teams, the three teams that have returned since July 23rd, have all now won a game. Um, Even though they should have won maybe one more in the Rockies case, but we can get to that. So anyway, starting off with the Rockies, we are currently sitting with a 7-2 record, if I'm not mistaken. We had tonight. Herman Marquez is on the bump, so obviously we're recording this before the game tonight. So hopefully we can get another dub tonight. But Jack Carlough, what are your impressions of the Rockies play? But first off, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. Mostly because the Rockies are doing good too. Usually those two things go together. Um, and yeah, I've been really impressed with them so far. After I think kind of a slow offensive start, those first couple games in Texas, I think the offense has really picked it up. We fixed the strikeout problem. Really, the starting pitching, I think they talked about it last night. The lowest ERA in the majors. I think it's still Chi gave up, I think, 3 runs last night, maybe. So that might have gone up a little bit, but we're still in the top of the league. Starters ERA, that's been amazing. Bullpen's been all right. Um, Obviously, it sucks with Wade Davis blowing another save, and now he's hurt, and as well as Oberg. I think the Rockies really need to pick up an arm. I don't know what the trade deadline's going to look like this year, but if there's any arm out there, we got to make our best effort to get him.
Any guy in a relief role that can close out games in the ninth inning.
Yeah.
You know,
I like Jairo Diaz though too. He he allowed some traffic last night. I think he allowed 2 runs, but he stayed calm in the pressure situation and run around third, up by 1. He was able to get out of it. And Ryan McMahon made an error there too, so I don't think it shouldn't have been that close. Um, so I'm okay with Jairo for now. I don't think Daniel Bard's quite all the way ready to be our closer yet, but maybe like a setup role would be good for him.
yeah, Hyro has really been like he had the bases loaded against Oakland in that game about a week ago in the bottom of the eighth, and we got out of it. And
Mhm.
it's really nice when you have a guy that is able to stay composed like that. Obviously wish all the best to Scott Oberg. I mean that situation's just tough, and
Mm-hmm.
it, as a just as a human to human, it's just like, oh my goodness, I hope there's nothing else going on there.
Yeah.
And with Wade Davis, obviously we hope he gets back, but this has been going on now for a year plus, where he goes into these games at Coors Field, he and like one little thing happens and it just builds on top of each other.
Yeah.
Um, I was the 3 games last season where he blew saves. The first one was or he didn't blow saves in 2 of them. He went when the game was tied in the ninth against the Dodgers twice, and gave up 4 and 5 runs in those games. So, that's
Yeah.
2 games that we could have won, and it didn't happen. Then against the Marlins, we were up 4-3. He gave up 3 runs, but we ended up actually coming back in that game and winning it in extras. But it just like the first home run barely goes over the fence. Okay, I can live with that. Tie game, you still have, if I'm not mistaken, he was still at 2 outs. Let's get
Yeah.
out the inning. He
I
just
think
couldn't do it.
he
And
walked the next guy.
and at this point, if you're Bud Black, it's like, do you even put this guy out there at Coors Field, because obvious is in his head.
Hmm. I think he talked about. I think he said um, or he said if Oberg were to come back, I think it would still be Davis's role. But I think if Diaz or maybe even Esteves really, keep throwing the ball well, maybe they could just take over that role from Davis. But I think as of right now, it's still Wade Davis's role. That's kind of what I've been hearing from Bud Black. I don't think he deserves it, though. I'm very against that.
Yeah, it's just like, can you even put this guy out at Coors when you're tied or up by only a run? I understand if you put him in the ninth, if we have like a cushy lead, fine, but
yeah,
that's the part that was just so frustrating. It's the same story. Like, he was in last season. We had 2 games against the Padres. I'm pretty sure he pitched in at least one of them. Where we had big leads and we gave it up and we lost this super high scoring game.
Mm-hmm. That's when the whole season kind of went downhill.
Yeah.
Remember that? Yep. But we're still 7-2, and I don't, we're just nitpicking. It's obviously not everything's going to be perfect, and
the
one thing we kind of expected to be subpar, I think, this year. Thank God our starting pitching has, been carrying us really through the first couple of weeks here.
For sure, yeah, and then our hitting, oh my goodness, we're Matt Kemp, like that guy in a Rockies uniform, let's go. And then Nolan finally getting his first home run last night, and he's been making some field gyms and getting people out when you don't expect him to get people out like he usually does. He's so freaking good, and like in Denver, we have the luxury of being able to watch 4-star athletes all across our 4 major teams with him, Jokic, McKinnon, and Von Miller. It's just like it's such an honor to watch these guys when they go out on the field. So,
yeah, I think you can tell they're still not in like top shape. I think defensively right now. I mean, they're still making those like crazy plays, but they've also made a couple errors. I think that's obviously just due to the layoff, and I think that'll improve with time. I think Story and Nolan have both made like 1 or 2 errors already each. McMahon, which is still like, like nitpicking kind of still, but because we expect them to make 0 errors, but there's still some rust I think that they're knocking off, and I'm excited to see when all that rust is knocked off and they can, get back to their normal, 995 fielding percentage or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, it's gonna be a fun season if they keep on playing like this. Just stay the course, really. So
yeah.
So speaking of kind of like so with CU Buffaloes, they had a webinar today. I think they marketed as, and they let like CU students go, CU alumni, just anyone affiliated with the university. So I went ahead and went. So there were some interesting tidbits from that, which I can go along here. So kind of like Mark Johnson using the term shoulder to shoulder to describe how everyone's been navigating the pandemic, kind of a little play on words with CU's slogan, obviously. And then Rick George said Carl Durrell's staying calm. He just maintains a calm, and you can tell that he knows what he's doing. He said at first he liked the fact that they were going to Oregon to open the season and then playing Utah at home with the top 2 teams. And then Carl Durrell talked about how the players had anxiety at first, but now he's really liked their resolve, navigating through all the waters that they've had to go through. And then he talked about the video game system that they've been using to try and get some sort of reps in, which I thought was really interesting. And he was like, well, I want to incorporate, like, I know a lot of my players play Xbox, PlayStation, that type of thing. And then he wants players to put themselves in the game. And then he had a pretty funny quote. just about he was 4-1 in bowl games, and he said he remembered the loss to Syracuse in the Fiesta Bowl. And he said, I don't know why we think that way, but you're absolutely correct as far as remembering the losses and not remembering the wins. So I think that's a really good coach to have because he obviously wants to win. Rick George said that we will be playing Oregon at Boulder next season. There's obviously the three, if the schedule stayed the way it appears right now, it would be 3 straight years of going at Oregon, and that obviously creates competitive balance issues. So, what are your thoughts on like the players getting this virtual game experience? Do you think it's gonna be beneficial to them, or do you think there's probably too many other teams doing similar types of things right now where the Buffs may still struggle from the start with their tough schedule to start the season?
Yeah, well, I'm sure, just keeping that football IQ sharp, I think, is important, because usually they'd be starting training camp like pretty much this week or maybe last week. But if you're not able to get together as a team, you got to do the next best thing. And obviously, all the players are still working out every day, I'm sure, and they all have plans for them. And really, they're starting training camp on the 17th, I believe. So really, we only have like 2 more weeks of this kind of virtual world. But I credit Dorrell for creating something that's interesting and fun for the players, and will keep their minds on football, instead of all the negativity around Corona, and keep them sharp for the season.
For sure. And we have this super tough start to the season where you're just like, can we even buy a win here? And then the schedule eases up kind of as we go through the season. It eases up a little bit. Obviously, they're going to be competitive games, I think. But yeah, what do you think? How many wins do you think this Buffs team can get this season with the revised schedule?
I hope it won't be another 5-7 season. Or that? Well, they're playing 10 games or 11.
10 games.
10. Okay, 10. So I'm gonna go 3-7.
3-7.
Those 3 wins being against. Gotta go over the schedule again. We don't have Oregon State this year. No, we do.
We do have Oregon
at the
State
end.
At home, yeah.
That's hopefully going to be a win. Washington, we play them too, right?
Yeah, it's in Seattle though.
We beat Washington last year, and that could be another potential win this year. Because usually they're a powerhouse in the Pac-12, but we'll see if they're able to bounce back this year. But I'll be optimistic and mark that as a win.
Yeah.
Who's your third win then?
I think that we have a chance to win basically every home game except for Utah. Arizona State obviously is going to be more hyped up. One of the most hyped up teams in the conference this season. We've beaten them the past 2 years though. So I think that just gives us that extra little bit of confidence we may need against them. We also have Washington State, Oregon State at home, UCLA at home. I think all 3 of those we could win. On the road, you obviously are playing at Washington, at Stanford, 2 teams you beat last season. The Buffs have won in Palo Alto before, so that's something that they can where like it doesn't feel like a place where they like as a fan you're just like, oh crap, it's not really that. Washington is that way though. Besides last year, we've really struggled against Washington since we joined the Pac-12. I just think that having to go at Arizona, at USC after opening up the season against Oregon and Utah is a brutal start to the season, and I'm just like it. We really have to start well out of the gate so we can catch 1 or I don't even think we can get to 2, so we can catch one of these games. So
Yeah. Yeah, I think that Stanford game could be a win. That's the other one I'm optimistic for. And yeah, obviously Arizona State at home. Maybe Arizona too. Because Khalil Tate graduated, so that makes it maybe a little bit easier, but we'll see. Maybe we could go 4-6, but I don't know. We're still a young team, and it's all, it's all kind of a mess this year with not getting the right, training camp schedule and the new head coach. There's more challenges that the Buffs have to face.
for sure. And one of the challenges that the Buffs and well, not necessarily the Buffs, but just the Pac-12 teams in general are giving the conference is that they're starting this campaign to for racial justice to get extra benefits from playing this season, which I think that they have every right to go to the conference and do this. But Rick George was the only AD who wasn't on the meeting list with Commissioner Larry Scott, and I think that could have been because of what they had going on today. So maybe he couldn't have made it or something. So I guess we will see what the future of this brings. But I think Dorrell has really supported his players, unlike other places like Washington State, to where this could have a really positive impact for the players on the Buffs specifically.
Yeah. Looking at their requests right now, obviously health and safety protections, which is obvious. I don't know if you heard about CSU. This just broke like an hour ago. A lot of the players have been told to like not report their symptoms, and you should look this tweet up. It's I think Kevin Lytle broke it, or at least retweeted it. But it's a mess in Fort Collins right now, and I think the Pac-12 players.
Who retweeted it?
Look up Kevin Lytle, I believe. He either wrote it or retweeted it.
Yep, I see it right here. So
Coaches have told players not to report COVID-19 symptoms, threaten players with reduced playing time if they quarantine, and claim CSU is altering contact tracing reports to keep players practicing.
There's a tweet right there, so you guys can see it. But yeah, it's crazy. And then Colorado's high school football season, I just saw this out of the corner of my eye, is also taking place in the spring now. So
yeah, I was just on the Zoom conference call with the CHSA commissioner, Rhonda Blanford Green. So I think this fall will just be like golf, tennis, softball, I think like cross country, no football. I think they said no volleyball. To double check that. But yeah, I think that's the right move to move football to the spring, and at least all the schools here in Longmont and Boulder are going online through September. So obviously you can't really. I don't think you can have a football season if classes are online. Just it's not right. And yeah, a lot of news broken today for sure.
yeah, crazy place we're living in, and well, not really crazy, just crazy times we're living in. I should have said it that way. But yeah, unbelievable when like these college teams, like the players are gonna have, like these players may have in-person classes. Like you don't know if these players have been instructed just to take remote anywhere. So
yeah, I mean that could be one way to maybe keep the fall football season more intact at the college level, is to require college players to take online classes. I don't know. It's strange to me that it's obviously a money grab to some extent if high school football is being pushed back to the spring, but college football isn't. It's kind of, if you read between the lines, I think obviously money's involved, but there's more to that too. But I don't know. I'm glad that these Pac-12 players are at least, making the effort to make sure that they're taken care of, and they're not just being exploited.
Yeah, for sure.
They also talked about protecting all sports because a lot of sports are being cut right now because of COVID, and all the financial impact of that. I know Rick George has talked about like not wanting to cut sports. That's like last resort, which I think is great. So I think CU can at least meet that need. They also talked about ending racial injustice, which is obviously very important. And I hope CU is doing everything they can to, follow that. They also talked about they wanted 50% of each sport's total conference revenue distributed evenly among athletes in their respective sports. At least from what I've heard, that's probably the most difficult request to attain.
Yeah.
The revenue.
I mean, like college athletes have been exploited for a really long time, but just with how the models are, 50% is maybe not feasible, and you maybe they just went high just so they could negotiate a more fair. They may think they're entitled to that money, and I don't have any objection to that because college sports just makes, especially football and basketball, just makes so much money. So
yeah, I don't see how you can ask for all the small sports like golf and tennis to not be cut, and then also ask for 50% of the revenue. I don't think those two things can happen at the same time, really. So we're still a long ways away from getting these football players taken care of from a financial standpoint, which is just sad, I guess. But I guess the reality, the financial impact of COVID. Larry Scott needs to take a salary cut, though. That's my opinion.
Yeah, everyone. It seems like Larry Scott isn't exactly the most revered commissioner in college sports, and I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah,
But
we've seen that with even the success of at least Pac-12 football.
yeah.
Basketball and baseball have always been at least all right.
Yeah. I could go on about like Pac-12 TV revenue and how the Pac-12 network isn't like, why is it not distributed to more providers? But that's a whole nother story for another day. So I guess now we will move on to a commissioner that does get good reviews in his league with Adam Silver in the NBA. Obviously, they started play last Thursday. Got Zion Williamson that opener, but he only played like 14 minutes in that opener. But I think that he's picked up his minutes, especially in yesterday's game. And then the Clippers-Lakers game was an excellent way to open up the return of NBA. And obviously the Nuggets have had two games. First off, they lost to the Heat by 20 points, not the best game, but then they come back and beat the Thunder in overtime by 8. What are your thoughts on the Nuggets?
Yeah, I mean, it's a bum that Murray's still out. But I guess we proved that against the Thunder we can still win without him. Not so much against the Heat. Then also, I guess Harris and Barton are out too, so that's definitely concerning. It looks like Murray's timetable is, a little better than Harris and Barton, and I think we definitely need Murray more than them because he's a very important part of our offense. The 1-2 punch with Jokic and Murray. But I'm happy to see all the bench guys step up. PJ Dozier's looked good. Bull obviously. And MPJ putting up a career high. Was it like 34 or something
37.
Like 37?
Yeah.
That was awesome. That was really good to see. Bull, yeah, we talked about this last podcast. Like, I thought he wasn't going to play at least that many minutes, but I think with the injuries, he's been given that opportunity and he's taken advantage of it, especially in those scrimmage games. So they've looked great, at least against the Thunder.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, Jokic getting that triple double is huge. It's like if him and MPJ just get that chemistry going, imagine what type of tandem those
Yeah.
two along with Jamal Murray could create for the future of this team.
Yeah, I saw that a little bit. They're trying to. I could tell they were doing like some 1-2 game, like Jokic and Murray usually do. It wasn't quite as clean as Jokic and Murray. I think there was a couple, passes that got thrown away, but it's also, first game back in a while, and they haven't played together too much. But yeah, that's been really fun to watch.
Yeah, for sure. And then the Nuggets returned the favor that the Avalanche gave on Sunday. Obviously, what a game with the Avalanche. I mean, we go out there, dominate St. Louis in the first period, but Landeskog takes a not great penalty, and we go down 1-0 later in the first period, I believe, but still it was a period where I thought we played better than them. And just the whole time, I'm just like, man, I feel like we've played better than them, but I don't know. And then Graves scores the goal in the third period where it looked like he was going to try and pass it, but then he lost control, regained control, and just shot it. And then, of course, at the very end of the game, the rebound with Nazem Kadri getting that goal with probably less than a tenth of a second left, officially a tenth of a second left. So,
The latest goal. It was still like the latest goal ever scored in a postseason game.
Yep.
Awesome.
So, yeah, latest regulation goal scored. Yep. So, I thought they played well. I thought Gruby had a really good game. The offense, like they were moving around, but like when they're in the slot, like Eddie Olczyk mentioned it on the NBCSN broadcast that they were trying to be too cute, and I felt the same way. And then just watching the game with our people, someone I was watching the game with kept on being like, they're flailing. But like they were able to get together in the third period. So yeah, it was just such an awesome win at the very end. And like, I was at first I was like, oh, I don't know, but on that first replay, I'm like, yeah, he got it in. So
yeah, it's just barely. It just has to cross that red line, and then you're good. Yeah, it's just like just crossed, and then the buzzer just barely after. I've like never seen that in hockey. That was crazy, especially to be first game back and playoff type game. I guess it was like a round robin. So it's just going to determine, I guess, seeding for the Stanley Cup playoffs.
Yeah, I think that was a playoff game. It felt like, I don't know, just as a fan watching it, it felt like a playoff game, especially playing St. Louis, the team that the Avs have been basically trying to chase down the entire second half of the season before the pandemic, obviously. And the fact that we're able to beat them, as long as we play well these next two games, we'll probably finish ahead of them, which is huge for us. So that means if we potentially play them in a series, we get the last line change, even though we won't be able to play in front of Pepsi Center, obviously, which sucks. But then with the Nuggets, you just are hoping that they can hold on to that 3 seed. The number 2 seed doesn't look as great right now. I still think that they could get there, but they have to play really well because the Clippers have I don't know how they did today, but at least the first 2 games against the Lakers, despite the turnovers, and the Pelicans, they've looked like they've brought their A game at least.
Clippers actually lost today. I was looking at it now.
Oh, really?
The Suns, yeah, 117, 115.
Wow, that's good news for the Nuggets.
We are now 1 game back of the Clippers.
Yeah, 1 game, and we play San Antonio tomorrow, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, so we can get that back. How about that?
Yeah.
Good stuff, Devin Booker and DeAndre Ayton trying to help the Nuggets cause there. Nice.
Yeah. So then if we get that number 2 seed, we'd most likely be playing
Dallas.
probably Dallas. It's like, yeah, no. Maybe OKC if they fall back a couple more games.
I think OKC and Houston are going to be the 4-5 matchup.
Yeah. Utah in there too somewhere. We'll see though. Yeah, thanks to the Phoenix Suns today for helping the Nuggets out.
That's solid. That's good for us.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's great news. So that's good news, but maybe not as good news, at least from the Broncos' perspective. Juwan James deciding to opt out of the season due to his concerns about coronavirus. Obviously, a decision that players aren't taking lightly, and I think that fans need to respect these decisions and just respect the situation. It's gonna look different. So any player across any sport that opts out, like Ian Desmond, and like Ian Desmond's doing really good stuff in his community while he's opting out this season. And then Jawan James obviously opting out. Just what do you think this NFL season may look like with these players opting out?
Yeah. I mean, once you get more and more like the star type players, it's just gonna get not as fun to watch. And I've already seen that with baseball a little bit and basketball. When your star players don't play, the league's gonna be hurt. I don't think. I mean, Juwan James isn't a star player, but I think he was still definitely going to make an impact. Thinking off the top of my head, there hasn't been any like too big a name in the NFL that's opted out yet. Von Miller talked about opting out. I think that was the big news yesterday or today. But he's going to decide to play. Yeah, if like players like Von Miller though opt out, it's just not the same game, and no one wants to see those third and fourth string guys playing.
Yeah, I don't know. I'd still watch it, but that's besides the point.
Still watch it. There's obviously no preseason, and no fans. I don't know. I'm sure it'll still be played in the fall. College football is being played. But football is obviously the hardest sport to maintain, social distance, and with like 65 players on the roster, that's just a lot. And we've already seen so many outbreaks in baseball and nothing in basketball yet, but kudos to Adam.
I think the bubbles will work as long as players don't exit the bubble. It'd work anywhere.
Yeah, we've seen a few basketball players break that rule, but
some for good reasons and some for not. But
Lou Williams.
Yeah, Lou Williams getting some I think it was chicken from the strip club in Atlanta or whatever. And then obviously you have family situations come up, like with Zion Williamson with his family and Mike Trout in baseball, but obviously having a kid, that's pretty important. So
most players are maternity leave anyways.
Yeah.
But Lou Williams was going to a funeral, I think. Then on the way back he had a little fun. So
So he had a good reason to leave, but you have to keep on staying vigilant. But getting back to the Broncos, this affects them because now you're probably looking at Elijah Wilkinson starting at right tackle and Garrett Bowles maintaining that left tackle position. It's funny because he's only one number up from Wade Davis, and those two are like the lowercase goats of Denver sports, in my opinion. Hopefully Garrett Bowles can show why he should stay on the team in his contract year.
I'm not super optimistic. I mean, uh, how many flags did he end up getting? Like all of last year, it was at least like I don't know. I remember at some games it was like 4 probably.
The
Just like
the the
one
game
game.
I was at against the Chiefs was really bad.
Yeah, and then his attitude just I don't like it. He's a finger pointing kind of guy, I think. But um, yeah, no, it sucks with Juwan James out. It just makes it easier for Bowles to. I guess James is a right tackle, right? So but still,
Yeah, but Bowles and Wilkinson were gonna fight for the left tackle, but now the logical thing to do would just be to start Wilkinson at right tackle. So
yeah, it's a yeah. The offensive lines hasn't been the best the past couple of years, and I think with a really strong running back core that the Broncos will have with Gordon and Lindsey, that's obviously not doing them any favors either.
yeah,
And a young quarterback too that needs all the protection he can get. Um, yeah, we'll see if the Broncos can make up for it on with their strong receiving core and their defense continuing to be at least above league average.
yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, I mean we have a good coach now, in my opinion, Vic Fangio. Obviously the hiring of Pat Shermer I think is going to really help Drew Lock in year 2, first full season starting. So I mean we just need to like see Drew Lock. Drew Lock just don't make that big mistake. That's all I can say. It's like if you're able to go in there and manage the game, we should be able to put ourselves in position to get a wild card spot, especially with
Yeah.
7 teams in it this year.
Hmm. Yeah, no, I'm definitely optimistic and hopeful for that 7th spot at least. Um, yeah, especially with the way the Broncos ended last season, and I think this layoff will help the Broncos. I think to some extent with just getting all the rookies more situated, and yeah, because obviously we're a pretty young team, at least offensively.
Yeah,
Yeah, because sometimes when it's just game after game after game, it can get a little fast for players, and maybe if there's like some games postponed, and if the season's pushed back a little bit, maybe that'll help them maybe just mature a little bit and settle into being an NFL player.
for sure. All right. Well, we covered all the Denver sports teams. Rockies have first pitch here in a bit less than an hour. Any last thoughts today, Jack?
I had to watch the Rockies in an hour. Big sports day tomorrow with the Avs, Nuggets, and Rockies all playing like all in a row, pretty much, which is cool. Um, yeah, happy that sports are back, and yeah, we'll see what college football brings in the fall. But if that doesn't happen, you know, at least we'll have NFL hopefully. But it's day by day.
Yeah. I've just been watching. I have hockey on right now, and I've been watching quite a bit of that. Been catching some baseball and basketball here and there since hockey's come back on. I'm just like glued to the TV. So yeah, it's awesome that sports are back, and to everyone listening, we hope that you're enjoying whatever sport you're watching, and it's great that it's back.
Yes.
So,
Great. Well, good job.
alrighty. Yeah, just one thing about the IndyCar decided to run the Indy 500 with no fans. Um, Obviously, spectacle. It's called the great spectacle in sports for a reason, because just when you get down to those last few laps with all the fans cheering and just all the drama that's associated with it, it's amazing to watch, and it'll be interesting to see how that looks with no fans, because it's like IndyCar's crown jewel by far. It just people care about way more than the rest of the season. Other motorsports, F1, Lewis Hamilton won his race with a punctured tire on the last lap. He still won by 5 seconds. It just shows how Mercedes is just so far ahead of the curve this season, and it's just crazy to watch. I mean, Lewis Hamilton, arguably the greatest driver in F1 history. Give him credit where it's due, but like you have a punctured tire the whole final lap, you have a 35-second lead when it happens, you still win by 5 seconds. I mean, like, that's just great driving coupled with just a team that's so far ahead of everyone right now, and I wonder how their viewership is doing because of it, but it's one of those things where that's just how F1 kind of has always been, with the top teams just being so far ahead of others. But anyway, that's all I have to say about racing. So thank you so much for listening to another episode of Jack and the Bean Talk, and we hope you enjoyed it, and join us next time.